another divisional Thursday night football here. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers going on their AFC North tour finally.
They sure
Now,
are.
now they're going to Cleveland and they're taking on the Cleveland Browns. Steelers are coming off of a victory against the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns are coming off of a loss against the New Orleans Saints. Carmen, your matchup that matters here in this game. What do you got?
I really do think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go the way of their rushing attack, and Najee Harris is obviously the biggest part of that. And it's because he's so physical. He embodies absolutely everything that you want out of a running back in Pittsburgh, where you do play that physical brand of football where, it's defense first and then you're going to ground and pound. And even though you now have a Russell Wilson who is throwing the ball down the field like it's 3 years ago, Najee Harris has 46 missed tackles forced on runs, and that ranks second in the league. And he's going against a Browns rushing defense that is struggling a little bit. 14 rushing touchdowns. It's tied for the fourth most in the league that they've led up. 42 rushes. This is the kicker. 42 rushes of 10 or more yards allowed. That's also fourth most. So they're a bottom five rushing defense in a lot of ways. And not only do you have to worry about Najee Harris, but if we're judging off of this last game, you might have to worry about Justin Fields too. And part of me was like, yeah, like why did it take so long? Because we went into this season when we thought that Russell Wilson was going to be the starter before that injury, that, all right, if Russ is the starter, maybe they'll still have some packages for Fields. I think that was a pretty common sentiment because, like, why wouldn't you do that? He provides the threat of absolutely everything between rushing the ball, he can hand it off, he can throw the ball. That just adds such a fun dynamic to your offense. What's taken so long? And then, well, you just mentioned it, they're opening up division play. This is something that they're starting to get on tape for their division opponents that they are now about to see. They have, what, 4 straight division games coming, like including this last one. So I really think that there is going to be something to Justin Fields now working his way into these packages offensively, where we only saw 3 plays last game, but I do think that we're going to see an uptick in that just because of all of the problems that he could present.
I do agree with you that I feel as though it was only sort of a matter of time before they got him in there. I wonder if it was a situation where you don't want to have the package plays in there quite yet because you really want to like entrench Russell Wilson as the starter, right? You don't want this like, okay, well, you don't want it to be doubt that's in either of these quarterbacks' minds, right? The phrase is if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. I don't know if I totally believe that. Sometimes, obviously, it comes to fruition, and I do think there's a little bit of truth to that if you don't handle it the right way. I'm pretty comfortable trusting Mike Tomlin at this point for this entire situation, this entire season, for how he's handled this, and it's worked out beautifully for the Pittsburgh Steelers. For my matchup that matters, I'm going to go to Pittsburgh's defense, and it's a really good defense, especially up front. We've talked about the guys in the front 4 that are playing very well. The linebacker level, Patrick Queen had a great game last week. Peyton Wilson did as well, their rookie linebacker. But specifically in the secondary, I think this is an interesting test for them going up against the Browns because Jameis, as we know, is not afraid to let it fly. Jameis's average depth of target this year is above 10 yards per pass. It's 10.8 of an average depth of target. When you are looking at the Steelers' defensive backs so far this season, their coverage grade drops from a 60.6 if you just include all throws, all the way down to a 33.1 if you just go with throws that are 10 yards or more, which we know Jameis is going to have quite a bit of in this game. Minka Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, all of them have coverage grades below 45 when it comes to those passes beyond 10 yards. So this is an interesting matchup here because it's a recipe for what the Browns and Jameis naturally are going to want to do. We even saw it last week against New Orleans. Obviously, New Orleans wins that game, and it's a big Taysom Hill game, and it was kind of a runaway for them. But Jameis almost threw for 400 yards in that game. So it was just a matter of the fact that their defense could not hold New Orleans and what they were doing. I think it's going to be a little bit more low scoring this time around in this matchup. And because of that, if you give up a couple of bombs, well, all of a sudden now the Browns are right there when it's all said and done, or especially when we get down into the fourth quarter. So I think this game will be a little bit closer because of that reason. The Steelers just haven't defended those deeper passes very well this season. On the other side of things, My plus factor here in this game before we get to yours is I'm going to call out Denzel Ward, the cornerback for the Cleveland Browns. He's going to be very important in this game because the Steelers offense, especially when passing, has just been George Pickens, and then we don't really know. Like some weeks it's been nobody. Sometimes it's been Mike Williams. Sometimes it's been, like a Pat Fryermuth or a Calvin Austin or something, but it's never a consistent player. So you can't really depend on another wide receiver outside of George Pickens. Well, what's George Pickens also done really well this season? Been on the opposite end of some Russell Wilson moonballs, right? Those deeper throws as well. Denzel Ward this season, an elite 90.1 coverage grade on throws of 10 yards or more. He's also on a bit of a hot streak. Last week, a 92.4 coverage grade from him. So he's one of the better corners in the league. He's playing really well, and he's been great when it comes to defending that deep pass. So if you can't connect on a couple of those moon balls to George Pickens, what are the Steelers in terms of the passing offense? I think that's a plus factor in this one. If Denzel Ward can shut down Pickens or at least limit him quite a bit, then all of a sudden, again, you throw in what I talked about with Jameis versus the Steelers secondary. This could be a much closer game than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, and actually mine goes right along with it because it's not necessarily a single player in George Pickens, but it's just how the Browns contend with the deep pass, because we know that Russell Wilson wants to throw it deep. He's done it more often than not to George Pickens, but he does have Mike Williams in that role as well. Mike Williams is capable of running down the field and catching one of those moon balls too. So what the Browns defense specifically can do against those explosive plays, can they limit those, especially when you consider that George Pickens leads the league in catches on 20 or more yard throws. He's got 12 of them this year. That ranks first. He's got 407 yards on those types of throws. Again, leads the league in that. So that's obviously a main component of their offense. And if you do take that point, what are you left with? And that's a place where the Browns can really see, and the Browns defense can really limit what this Pittsburgh offense wants to do.
Dave Solfaro, our researcher / just say every week, do everything guy at PFF, he sent me this stat while we were talking about this. Only quarterback with 15 or more deep pass attempts without having a turnover-worthy play is Russell Wilson. So that is a major part of their offense, and they absolutely love to go to it again. If Denzel Ward can step up, I think that's a big difference maker here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below. So if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.